Okay, we are live on Facebook. I'm going to bring our new friend on in just a second. Beloved sister by the name of Motwani. Todd Medina, SoulogyOneStudios, reporting from the front line of the apocalypse. A lot of energy is coming down the last few days, and I just want to make a statement and a declaration on behalf of everybody. I am not only a human being, although the human being is the hero. I'm a star seed. I have multiple missions here. They do not complete me. They just happen to be what I'm doing here in this space and time. I think it's time everybody stood up and told the world what they're doing, who they are, what they are, until we become the mainstream. We have a very interesting guest today. She was a civil rights attorney, very colorful life, and she made a decision. And we're going to find out about her story and find out about her magic and her alchemy and everything else that comes with her. So I'm going to bring her up now. If these shows resonate with you, please share so we can stay above the algorithms at Facebook. And thank you all for the continued love and support contributions. Hello, Mona.
Hi, Todd. How are you?
I'm very good. It's a pleasure to meet you. I apologize for the less than professional approach, but that's what we do here. It's all spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and depending on what we're talking about or doing, courageous.
Down for it. I watch your live, so I know.
Oh, yeah? So you're out in California now, huh?
Yes. I lived in Bali for 5 years, and now I'm back in California.
Oh, yeah. Well, I want that had to be well, I guess California's okay. Yeah, I mean, California's all right. You're in, I think I saw you were in Encinitas out that way.
Yeah. Very special part of California. Yeah, there's a lot.
But you're from the East Coast originally, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I was born in Michigan. My parents are both from India originally.
Mm-hmm.
Raised in Michigan.
Yeah. And then you were a civil rights attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, your story reminds me of my friend Maya Metliker.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever seen her stuff. She was from Slovenia, and she was a prosecutor and worked for the state. And then she had her awakenings, and she's been on a gypsy-esque trip ever since. Yeah. So how did you step out of the old mainstream into the new live stream?
Well, I was forced out. I did not volunteer to leave the matrix, but obviously that's okay because some of us have to be removed. And I got, I was doing human rights work, and like my desire was always to be of service to humanity, which is ironic, right? Because that's what we get to do now in another form. And I thought it would look like this as a lawyer, and I was very academic and overachieving, and coming from an Indian family, kind of set in this like box, in that matrix box. And then I got very ill. I had bouts of depression, but then I got extremely ill where I ended up being severely disabled and basically attached to an IV pole, had a catheter threaded into my arm for 3 years. I was kind of like a vegetable for about 13 years, lived with my parents. I had late stage Lyme disease. And, it was also an illness that nobody understood. The mainstream medical didn't understand it for the most part at that time. So it took me that was the beginning of my awakening. I mean, that was my greatest gift. It was challenging, of course.
Wow. You don't seem on a linear level to be very old. Like you look like you're in your late 20s at the most.
Thanks, I'm 42.
You're 42. Yeah. Well, there you go. Somebody's discovered the regeneration template. So you went through all this stuff, and I've heard more than one person that has gone through something similar, like you should have never come back. Yeah. And most of them mention Lyme disease. I wonder what that's all about. Maybe you were targeted or something,
Well, I don't know, because I know a lot of other people that have Lyme like me, and really severe trauma, like complex PTSD from childhood. I watch your shows. I know it. We're all moving through these layers, and I honestly think there's something. To me, the Lyme, of course, is real, as in it's an illness that exists in the body. And my parents, thank God for them, spent all their retirement money, $400,000 on my medical bills, because I know holistic doctors, acupuncture healers. And then now I feel at the point on the healing journey where this access to something else, like the Lyme, to me is not a front, but it's kind of like something that it has symptoms that act as something that connect me to another realm, and I can't explain it.
Wow.
But I have really wild, like, almost like I'm on hallucinating a lot. Like when with Lyme, you get a lot of neurological symptoms. And so that was very scary. And now that I feel very much healed in a great, not completely, I feel that it's actually, the symptoms are now there to, as messengers, to give me access to something else, but I have to sit still with them.
Wow. Wow, this is a nice twist though. I mean, I like the way, because if one end of the spectrum is true, the other end is true too, but you're actually seeing this as or actually experiencing this, or having converted it, or having the perception of being able to look at it in terms of like a red flag, like a communicator to you. Something's off balance, something's coming, something like that.
Yeah, well, it's a messenger. And it's like, the real part of our human bodies, of course, I had to work through all the physical treatments. I even did IV antibiotics, which I didn't want to do. But then I did all the holistic treatments, and I did lots of work, trauma work, all the kind of stuff that we're all doing. And after that, and alongside that, there is another aspect, because I know a lot of people, and they happen to be mostly women, who have Lyme, that are star seeds. They are communicating with other dimensions, and they have these crazy symptoms where sometimes I had symptoms where I literally I couldn't even see straight. But then I tuned in with my Zachariah. He's been on your show, my sister,
Yeah.
and he's my mentor. And I had visions of all of humanity in a matrix in a TV box. I had visions of Donald Trump and like all of his darkness that he's carrying. I had visions. And then the last vision I had was in my mother's womb. So I really feel like there's a real aspect that needs to be dealt with. And then there's something that's like a messenger that's carrying me to something I wouldn't see, right? Because I'm busy going really fast as a lawyer and, all that kind of stuff.
Wow. This is powerful. This is really powerful. So, yeah, because I noticed a couple of things, and I'm not trying to be funny, but one of the things I noticed when people start telling their story, I was raised Catholic. A lot of people were raised Catholic, which is mostly in the Western, obviously. And then these a couple other elements would be like the PTSD, Lyme disease, and these are some high-powered people I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention any names. And then the other one is that, what is it? That disorder or condition where you start to freeze up. It's been diagnosed a lot over the last couple of decades, but it's very common. I can't remember the name of it. So you're saying that, and see, I had a history of seizures from 15 to 50. I probably had a couple hundred seizures. And as time went on and I pulled out of it and I started to get acclimated over the last few years, I started to understand that it was multi-purpose. Part of it was for them to kind of regenerate me, pull me out. It was like an overload. It was like my body couldn't take it. And most of it, I think now that I'm reflecting on it, I was just thinking about this last night. I think most of it was like the 3D stress induced. It was like the pressure of being a father or husband or worker, whatever the case is, whatever it was. But it also, at the same time, it gave me a window that I wasn't very conscious of into the type of things you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the trauma did that too. Like the kind of PTSD that I've had was like where I would be shaking on the floor and people would have to come hold me, and I would be throwing up, and, really intense stuff that is not just of this life, like stuff that I'm carrying in my DNA that was being expelled, right? And so I feel like when we're processing that amount of energy, and especially right now, and then with these energies you were just talking about, my body is going wild the last week. Like I am not. And so I'm walking around, Todd, like I literally feel like I feel like I've never taken acid. I imagine like 90 hits of acid put together, and sometimes and people are like, that sounds amazing. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like this has been off and on for 15 years. It's pretty intense, but then I have to allow that to take me where it's meant to take me. And then my mentor was saying at some point, I don't think spirit is going to give you those physical symptoms anymore. You're just going to go to the place, but right now you need them as like almost like a messenger to get you there, right? To sit. So that's what I do. I go sit and meditate and ask God or spirit to come through me and show me. And sometimes there is just a physical thing. Other times this energy, it's not just physical.
Yeah. Now you've been doing this for 15 years. Okay. And you just made a comment over the last week that's been really intense. You also mentioned acid, which you've never done,
Oh
but
God, I never do it.
but I was thinking about this because I have what and it's been a long time, but I was thinking about this a couple days ago. Some of the stuff that's been happening has been visual, and almost like I guess like glitches in the matrix, like peeking through. And I'm like, what is that? You know, what is this? And these different things happening. Some are visual, some are not visual. But it reminded me of going into an LSD trip with with forethought and with a plan, with a plan to expand and experience and so on. Because it sounds to me like what you describe over the last 15 years with this thing with the Lyme disease is you're actually walking in another dimension while you're physically, on your feet. I mean, physically you're not, you're not in dream state, right?
No, no. It's
Wow.
it's wild. And it's not just the Lyme. Like when I first started doing some pretty deep work about a year ago, deeper layers of karmic cleansing, not even energy work, just opening up with my mentor. I started literally, I think I vomited for about 6 weeks straight.
Mm,
I told anyone this, but it was like a release out of my system. So, you know what I'm
mm,
saying? My body, it's almost like an energy antenna for what's happening collective, and it
yeah.
processes things. And then some of it's my own. And so I now, instead of fighting with it, just open. All right, well, my body is a messenger. And then like there's actually I can experience joy while I'm crying, like while I'm in these states, whereas before it was quite terrifying because I didn't know what was happening.
Wow.
So
Wow,
it
this is amazing. And I've got a lot of friends that are from India, I know it's a very diverse culture in terms of because it's so many people, but there does seem to be a very common thread of spirituality, family, do service to the collective and that type of thing in the East. How did your parents are angels, for putting up their retirement to get you back to where you needed to be. How do they feel about all this stuff that goes on with it? Has
well,
it been? Yeah.
like what we're talking about right now, they have no
Yeah, like the walking in two worlds and the they,
they don't understand what I'm talking about. I just translate it to them as symptoms like, hey mom, I've got really bad vertigo and I can't see straight. Like, okay, and so they also didn't understand the trauma for a long time because a lot of people don't understand trauma. And I had to bring in a trauma therapist to explain because I had a lot of trauma with them and, didn't even speak to a lot of my family for a long time. And
wow.
so they financially supported me, but emotionally I was cut off. So because they were like, we don't want to have a disabled daughter. And it's not their fault. Of course, I was
Yeah.
angry more that they were conditioned in a way that they didn't know how to love this being that was like disabled in her 30s, right? You're supposed to be successful, et cetera, et cetera. So that part of my journey has also been illuminating to come back to them in a space of love.
Wow.
It's like I just said I would never want to deny myself the journey of diving into the darkness and diving into the underworld, the heroine's journey or the hero's journey that we all get to embark upon. I would actually not want to deny myself the journey because now where I've come back to with my mother is that I literally cry because I love her so much and I wouldn't see her for some time. And it was so challenging and I was wanting to leave this planet and commit suicide, and now I just feel so much love and so much connection. And so here with hindsight, of course I can say that at the time it was challenging, but I would never have received if
Hmm.
she wasn't the woman she is. I never would have been able to love myself and give
Yeah.
my right. That to me is a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. This is amazing because it's such a real life. There's so much the human part of it,
So much human.
present, present the whole time. So many people, and I'm not knocking anybody, because we get brought into the game in so many different ways. Of course, there's being the odd one out in the family. There's the traumas, whether they're in this incarnation or other incarnations that we're pulling through. But yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of people pull in all this stuff up here, and it's fantastic and it's great. But at some point, the human has got to come through, and it sounds like in your journey, your human was present each and every day.
Well, yeah, and when she wasn't, she goes back into resistance
Mhm.
to the pain, but I was so blessed. It's like, I feel like God or spirit had literally just like showered angels upon me. So it was like, okay, your blood family is not going to support you emotionally. So thank God that I would help you financially. We're just going to shower you with like angels. So everywhere I went, there was a time where I was just stuck somewhere in Australia and I was so sick I couldn't move from my bed. This guy, I just met him. He was a friend of a friend. He was my friend's ex-boyfriend, came over, packed up my bags, cooked me dinner, pushed me in a wheelchair through the airport, got me back to Bali. Like, people have always showed up. So I know that my mission, although it was so overwhelming with all the illness and the trauma, and then not having the family to support, I was always given these supports in the field. And so then I knew that my mission was something, and right, like I was here to do it and not to give up. And I never would have committed suicide, but we go to those places, right?
Yeah, we've all been there.
In
We,
there where it's like, no,
yeah.
I'm out. Fuck this. I'm out. Excuse my language. Am I allowed to
No,
say
this is Soulogy. You can drop as many F-bombs as you want. Because I don't want to be the only one that does it. I'm always getting in trouble for it. How did you, okay, so, I know you had a tremendous amount of conventional medical attention and so on. I know, but I also know that you did this yourself. At the end of the day, you did something, you transformed, you did something over this period of time. How would you relate that? How could you convey that to us? I mean, just in general terms.
Yeah. So, I would say is a long journey, but it was like, first, obviously becoming aware when we are asleep and we become awake, and becoming aware and of all the patterns. And then in the last few years, the biggest transformational piece has been deep, deep surrender. I mean, like, lay on the back, just wipe me, like flatten me, surrender. And that doesn't mean not necessarily don't do anything. It just means to not be in resistance to the moment, because
Yeah.
the moment was showing me pain, trauma, emotional debt. It was like constantly showing me things. And I'm like, how much more can I take of this? Like, this is 15, 20 years, dude. Like, give me a fucking break. And so
Yeah.
so then it was an opening, a surrendering. And
Mhm.
I have to say, if I did not connect to my team, to my guides, to my higher source, but like the first thing before I could even do that was reparenting the inner child, meaning I didn't have parents that could make me feel safe. So this little girl was shaking. I had to become the divine mother and the divine father within myself, because I didn't
Yeah.
have the ones to give what we needed, like many of us. Give it to her so that she could rewire her nervous system, as we all have to. And then our nervous systems also get hit by the energies. So I had to rewire that, love, and then really not reject any part. So usually in conventional medicine, take a medicine, get rid of the pain. It was like, no, all the pain in here and all the vertigo and the hallucination and the oxygen, everything had to be seen as something that was almost a rejected part, or something that was exiled. And I had to, almost like a soul retrieval, retrieve and integrate it back. That's how I would describe it in a giant macro picture. It's like calling back parts of myself. So inner child, this love, my sovereignty, all the parts that were violated, etc. And doing that with complete kindness, right? Not the judgment, bad and wrong, as best as I could, because I couldn't do very much. On most days, I could barely walk down the stairs.
Yeah, that's similar to the energy of what Ingrid, I don't know if you caught her show. She's amazing. Ingrid Esna from Norway. She had cancer 3 times, I think.
Yes, I have part of her show. Yes.
Yeah, and she's like, I love and such a no bullshit way too. She's just like, I had to love my cancer. God came in and said, this is nothing separate from me. Oneness is oneness, And so this story is very similar to that. It's an amazing story, because you look incredible, you look young, but obviously you've been doing the work. I mean, and I think too, you mentioned earlier, which I think is important. It's not a cop out at all. I mean, I would say to be taken in the right context, and that is some of what you did and some of what you do is for the collective.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, and I think it's in a way where not only we're anchoring something, but you're actually creating something to make it easier on others, or at least give others an alternative or other options. That's very cool. Yeah, very cool. Now 2019 has been like an acid trip every month. Yeah, but I mean, and so here we are, and it's December the 17th. We're what, 5 days away from this solstice, and we know the solstice has been amazing the last couple of years. That's the only time I've been keeping up with it, but it's been amazing. It's certainly a marker. You've obviously had this journey of 15, 20 years of hardcore transformation. What was this year like, and how do you feel? What was this year like for you, and how do you feel in the present moment as we move forward?
This year was really fucking intense. And, I've had so many intense years prior that you're like, all right, this one's going to be really mellow. Not the case. It was such a year of, don't get me wrong, there's so much joy in my life, but I can access that joy because I can access the depths, right? And so I feel very blessed to have the tools and the team and the people and the guides around to help me. And then, so a lot of it was in the darkness, in the dark night of the soul and the underworld. And a good 4 months, I was like, I can't be here anymore. And I haven't felt that in a while. I was like, I'm out. But of course I'm not out. I'm here. I'm here to do the work. If I've done this much work, I'm not going to out on it, that no way. So it has been probably the most transformative year of my life, and why I feel then in the last, I'd say, month or two, that my entire body, my DNA has shifted.
Yeah.
My body has healed exponentially, even the trauma stuff in my nervous system and PTSD responses. And now I finally feel, because the other part of the sadness was not being able to live my purpose. All I wanted to do was to give back to humanity. And so when you're in bed, you don't really feel like you can do that, but you forget you are giving back to humanity. You're just doing it in a different way.
Exactly.
I finally feel that I'm being allowed to do that in outside of my bed. And so with my writing and my speaking, and I think I mentioned too, I did a performance, which was like a prayer performance, and it's transformational art, where basically you're doing a monologue, but it's not a monologue. It's called transformational art. And a woman led me through it. I spent 3 months writing my life story, what I'm sharing, not even all of it, because you can't do your whole life story in an hour.
This is who you are.
Yes.
I saw this, like, was it like a month ago or 4 or 5 weeks ago?
Yes. It was November 7th. And I expected 20 people to show up. I had about 70 people there. I performed the entire thing, and it's not performing, you're actually reliving the moments, but not re-traumatizing yourself. It's a transmission. So you're transmitting.
That's fascinating. Is it on YouTube? I'm just curious.
I just got the video from the guy who did the video. And so, I've been told, people were like, you need to take this on the road.
Can you, because we're big on, we're a platform, and we're expanding that platform. And one of the parts of it is kind of like, I think, where I'm headed. I'll still do the show, but really produce a lot of stuff. And I just love original stuff like that. And I remember watching, I think Morgan had sent it to me, but I'd love to get a copy of that MP4 and just take a look at it, or even see and even view it. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But so that was a very unique kind of deal. And so somebody walk you through this, or were you guided to do it?
No, I was guided by spirit. Of course, the place I moved in right here a year ago, the woman living here, this beautiful, amazing being who's also gone through her own darkness, another highly sensitive empath. She happens to do this as her work. She guides people through these journeys to create transformational art and performances. And it's a long, fucking intense process. And Todd, you go like this. I mean, again, I haven't done plant medicine, but I imagine it's like doing plant medicine 3 times a week. You're just like into the darks, out to the expansion, just because you're excavating your own life. And
that's a good word.
Right?
You're excavating out of both ends, man. No, I'm telling you, that's how the seizures felt. I know what you're talking about.
So it was, I felt like it was going to kill me. I'm like, Isabella, why am I doing this? And she's like, everyone says, why am I doing this? And by the end, so by the time I did the show, and I love being on stage, but performing your life story, your most raw, vulnerable, darkest, also another thing. It's another thing, because you are revealing all of your shadows to the world. You get to keep some of that private. I didn't want to keep it private, because I soul wanted to do this. When it did it, Todd, I mean, I got a standing ovation. People were, and then you have feedback after, and I had people saying, thank you for giving me the ability to feel my emotions. And that's what I want to do, is I want to give people to feel, because that's what we're doing here in our expansion of consciousness. Because we're humans.
Yeah.
And so, and then I also brought in my higher self and my harmonium. I play the harmonium. And so I sang, my higher self was like my spirit self singing self in the show. So she came in and we conversed, and then there, you know, I won't give it away, but it becomes very inspirational at the end and real and fucking raw.
That's it, man. That's Soulogy, man. I'm digging it totally. But yeah. But okay, so that's exactly what has happened in the evolution of what Soulogy does, whether it's a post or whether it's a production like this or a music production, but it's just raw. It's not polished. You don't rehearse it. You just go out and do it. And, and some people, and it's okay, because I understand it's atypical, will come in and say, they don't say it all the time. Sometimes they do. They'll be like, I just, I want to promote this. I want to promote me. It's not about that. It's about this. It's about what did you go through? I say it all the time. You watch the shows, the highest forms of transmissions, downloads, channelings, and activations come from these conversations. And that type of production that you're talking about that I saw, you know what it reminded me of? For those who, everybody knows who Mike Tyson is. And even if you didn't follow boxing when he was boxing, everybody pretty much knows how his life went. But Spike Lee got him to do a Broadway play.
Really?
And it is absolutely, I mean, this guy's not an actor. He has a lisp, but he did what you did. He actually gave this performance where he went into the shadow, into the monster.
Wow.
It was so real. It got rave reviews. It was a couple of 3 years ago. But I mean, I was like blown away because he wasn't an actor. It wasn't like it was just somebody bearing their soul saying, hey, I fucked up. I did good. This is what I learned. This is the wisdom. This is how, all this stuff, just raw. And I love that kind of vibration. So I'd love to review that again whenever you get that. You brought up something, and I'm going back and forth to the comments here. Your frequency, this conversation is pushing some buttons, which is great. And I think this has had to do with it, and some people have made comments, and I mean, it's not anything antagonistic. And what I'm getting at is the whole victim thing. You have seemed to find a place to basically, we'll have to use human words, forgive, heal, align with kindness, you said, with kindness. It's one thing to say something, it's another thing to embody it and do it. How in the hell do people still struggle with that? I do. I pull up 4 or 5 people every day. Obviously, they're not like big monsters in my life, but they make me agitated. They make me uncomfortable. And I go to them and I pull them up and I pull their higher self up and I integrate until the next day. And sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. But how would you direct or guide or suggest to anyone, because there's many high vibrational people that still have a problem with their victimizers, their purported victimizers, that they were innocent. We're all innocent. We all got fed the same bullshit, the same programming and conditioning. How would you suggest to someone to get over the hump and to equalize and harmonize and balance with anyone and everyone who ever did anything to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have the same human tendencies of having, that's challenging to be with those people that agitate. And I've had a lot of really, as my teacher says, like really intense personalities in my family that were like caricatures. So they made it really big. So I had to be forced to reckon with that pain. And I mean, I'm going to be honest. The first thing I had to do is feel the emotion. It's not like I'm not into spiritual bypass where I just say, hey, yeah, you did this really fucked up. That's awesome. I love you. Thank you so much. No way. I had to feel it. I'm not going to externalize my anger towards them, but I have to release that emotion from my body, from my cells somehow. So, however I process that or we process that, I think is important. And there may be things you say, but you don't say them to the person, right? That are horrible. Get them out of the system, process the energy. And then it's like, I have to constantly, when I was with my family recently, I was like, whoa, all this stuff. And I had to see what are these people feeling underneath that I have no idea, right? Maybe it's coming out anger, and that to me does not feel good.
Right.
However, what are they carrying that they just don't know how to carry? And I can create boundaries, but can I also create this compassion from them, for them, from a distance, in being curious and seeing the if you want to use the word God, but seeing God in them, because we are all children of
Yeah.
this higher power. Can I see that? And that takes some time. It doesn't happen right away, especially
Yeah. That's true, that's very true. And I think that has to be respected because again, there's no linear, and like our young friend Joshua Pearson says on the show, magic doesn't know time. So, I love what you said about you can't do it right away. It's not going to happen right away. I was talking to a good friend of mine last night, and he had a couple of situations in his life, and one's extreme compassion and one's extreme the other end, you know. And I said in both cases, that's you know what I mean? And this is how I kind of work on myself. It's like I look at, this is even going back, when I woke up like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, walking the streets, and I would think to myself, you're an asshole, but you're also this beautiful heart, you're both, and somewhere in the middle. And how do you get to the middle? I mean, it's part of this process. And the other thing I think that you bring up that's really important is about the feeling, because I know this last week has been really intense, and I've gotten some really intense intel that I'm still kind of weeding through. A couple of little visitations and dragon energy and this and that. But one of the things that came through was that in the higher dimension, I really don't even know if it was the fifth or the sixth that they were talking about, because there was quite a bit of stuff represented, but that we're basically feeling beings. Everything is about feeling. And if you look at the human hybrid, they have that kicker, that wild card of emotion. And I just have to believe that like in your story, transforming everything in your life into this positive, energy, the expansive energy, that the same thing is going to happen or can happen with the transmutation of our emotions, because that's feeling. It just happens to be, is the feeling going to control me, or is it going to work with, am I going to align with it and utilize it to expand? And of course, the other thing you bring up too, which I think is real important, goes beyond empathy, I think, is when you're in these situations, and we've all been there, like Ram Dass said, if you think you're awake, go spend some time with your family, that you can sit there and say, I wonder where they're coming from. I wonder where their wounds are. I wonder how they're feeling. I wonder why they're acting this way, rather than have all that other stuff looping in your head. And then you leave and you walk outside and throw up and say, I'm not coming back for another 5 years.
Yes, totally. That's how I lived for a long time with them.
Yeah.
I get it. And what you said about the feeling, Todd, that's kind of, sorry, this is a question you asked before. How did I get through all this? I would say probably one of the biggest thing was by allowing all the feelings, because I know as a very empathic being that I'm here to open to these states. They're not actually all mine. They collective as well. They are ancestral and mine. And so some of it may be mine to process. Some of it sometimes I feel is not mine and is coming in and hitting me. And, I communicate with spirit about these things so that I take on what I'm here to take on and then don't take on what I'm not here to take on. But I know that I'm processing, and a lot of us are processing for collective. So, it's coming and showing up as an emotion. It's in my physical human body. So I do have to process it and allow it to move through.
Yeah.
And
See, and I don't know. I don't know, because of course there's a lot of talk about masculine and feminine, and the fact that we're incarnated in specific bodies, even though energetically it doesn't always line up, but that's not the point. The point being that they're distinct. And, women have always been in touch with their feelings for the most part, speaking in general terms. And I know what you're talking about. But what I'm remarking at is it took me so long, even knowing Morgan 3 or 4 years, who's a practitioner. It wasn't until last year when I started to say, I'm angry, or this person did this. And so it wasn't about judging the person. It was about feeling what that, mirror of me, put on me. And it really made a huge difference. And it was probably about 15 months ago before I hit that point. But man, it was a life change. It was a game changer. And again, it wasn't like an overnight deal. Like you said, it's like every month, you'd make a little bit more progress. And speaking of months, wasn't this year like every month like it was like being in one of those old carnivals, where they have the fun house and you walk from one room to another and it's like a totally different thing
Yes,
every time?
yes. It was wild,
Yeah.
crazy. And the time sometimes 1 week was like a year. And,
Mm.
yeah, it was.
How do you feel about where you're at now? I mean, as an individual goes, so goes the collective. I mean, how do you feel after this long journey, and then this, I don't know what this year was, a summary year of all our lives or something? Obviously, there's some type of preparation being taken, but how do you feel where you're at now? Where you're in? I know it's kind of hard to say now that we're at the state that we're in, to say, okay, where are you going to be in 5 years? Or it doesn't work that way, but like where you are and where you're going, how do you feel about that?
Feel generally, probably I've never felt like this in my entire life. And I have no doubt that the energies of 2020 that are coming in and this paradigm shifting occurring and all the stuff, I follow Jason and on your videos as well. Like, it feels after that for me, the massive shift was that performance, because the expression of my stuff that was locked in my physical body and emotional body that came out through the performance was so massive that it transformed me in such a way that I feel finally able to live my dharma or my purpose.
Wow.
So I feel almost like, a little bird on the edge of a cliff who hasn't flown and
Hmm.
it's starting to fly. And so I feel this this really like hope for humanity, right? Because so many people are waking up. I
Yeah.
feel for me that my physical body is representing that waking up, because it literally is shifting. My physical body is starting to heal on a massive
Yeah.
level, and my emotional body and all that. So I feel really good and really, yeah, just meaning, and that still means with all the emotions that come through and all the physical that comes through, I have I trust so much right now.
Yeah. And have you done that performance again, or was that the only time you did it?
Time. It was a lot to produce the show and then be
Yeah.
in the show and then everything. And so the feedback I received was to take this. They said, please take this around the world. To
Dude, yeah, absolutely, man. If we get a little, I mean, you're on the West Coast. I mean, not if, but when we get a little Soulogy Fest going, I'm gonna hit you up.
I would love
You
that.
know,
I think I'll
yeah,
be in San Francisco soon in a
yeah,
couple of months. And then, I'm going to trust wherever. I don't know. I don't really feel like I'm in charge.
yeah,
Above charge, they tell me where I go next.
yeah. I think pulling together performances, expressions, presentations like that, to me, that's what I like. I like to see like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, because they're so original. And when they have an artistic slant to it, to me, it makes it even more powerful. Like that's probably the biggest thing I miss over the last year and a half or so. I haven't done a lot of artistic stuff. And to me, when you, it's like a channel, right? It's like a communion, and especially when you're pulling from your own incarnation's experience, and then you just like find that flow and you stream it out there. There's not. You're right. It's like expansive and liberating and cleansing and purifying. I mean, it's incredible. And
And
this story that you have is incredible. It makes me wonder if that's what or at least part of your mission here, is to spread this type of
yeah,
performance.
I mean, I was a lawyer, right? So for me to be doing this kind of thing is just I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? How
Mm.
did I never felt as alive as I did that day? And the cool thing is I did an invocation and a prayer before where I brought everyone into the field. And then I also feel like it was also about bringing heaven, right, from earth, and also bringing the ground up. So it was bringing the top and the bottom into meet in the middle, because my human experience was in this underworld. And then there's all this cosmic stuff and the higher self, and I brought them in the middle to be expressed in the performance. And that kind of felt right, like I guess my unique way of expressing in the world.
Yeah, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. And then the thing that you're bringing up too, because of the depth of the physical afflictions that you had, you know, the fact that you're sitting here saying what I think a lot of people are experiencing, but because they haven't had that huge contrast that you've had between health and not being healthy, is that the physical body is responding rapidly now. I can feel it in myself. In fact, I was standing outside 3 nights ago and I heard, it was a big night for Morgan and I later that night too, because the energy was powerful. It was Sunday night. And I heard, you are your light body now. I heard it like 3 times. You are your light body now. Like, I don't know if that means it's 100%, but I got the impression that like you're past that, you're in the majority now. And now
Wow.
you can start to utilize it. But I've noticed with my body, things change gradually over the last 2 or 3 years, and they do seem to be accelerating. But the fact that you're bringing that up and with your story, that tells me that it's probably bigger than, for most people, it's probably subtle, and it's probably not that subtle, really. The impact itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who are your? I'm just curious and nosy. Who's your team? I mean, is there specific faces of the universe that's your team in the ethers?
I
Are you
mean, I have like on my team on Earth or my other team, anyone.
either one? Either one.
I have a lot of people on the Earth that are supporting me, like Zachariah Krall, the man I mentioned who's been on your show before.
Yeah.
We do the work, of course, but if these people come in to remind us who we are, and he is like a soul brother, he is a soul family, and
Yeah.
he assisted me so much in the last year. The transformation has been like this.
Yeah.
And I was ready for that. Hence, he's like, otherwise we wouldn't have come together, right?
Right.
Who's ready, the teacher comes, or whatever they say. So, and then in terms of, I have so many other beings, all my friends, but also have other supports and people who support me through trauma and physical. I'm supported in that whole realm here on Earth. And then, I have like at my altar, my parents are from India, so I do feel like a calling to all the Indian deities, but I have Jesus Christ on there. I've got Buddha, I've got Kuan Yin. I have archangels that I call in, but I really just speak to spirit or God.
Yeah, to the one voice.
To the one voice,
The
because
singular.
one, and then whoever is meant to come through comes through. Now, the other day I was having some of these symptoms. I call them symptoms with quotes because they're real symptoms, but I'm like sitting there and I have all this woman is speaking to me through my head, and I'm like, what? And it was like the feminine Christ consciousness that was coming through my head. And I don't usually have voices that come to me. And there was a whole, so I just kind of open, and then whoever is coming to guide me. But to me, it's really the one voice, or yeah, I just say, for me, I say God or spirit.
Yeah.
That's how I communicate with them. And then sometimes they'll bring in, like my ancestors were there the other night and I saw them and I was crying. But it's really, and then sometimes now what I've been doing, because I'm so connected to the earth and I need to be outside all the time, is I ask for my earth guides, like whoever they are, like to come and be with me, just so that they see me, I see them. But I don't have specific beings. I don't channel. And only a few times have I had visions with these wild symptoms, have I had really clear visions. And that's starting to happen more now. And I'm guessing it will. But yeah, that's kind of who I call in, and and then I ask Mother Earth. She is one of the greatest allies. I say Mama Gaia, because my physical stuff is so intense. If I don't put my feet on the earth for an hour every day, I will usually not feel well. So I ask her to neutralize and assist me in processing the energies. And someone said to me, she said, Mona, you're kind of like doing the work of Mother Earth, but about on the planet. You're transmuting energies through your body. So ask Mother Earth to show you how to use your body as a conduit and transmute without being in constant physical pain. So that's what I speak to her, and I ask her to speak to me through my body. Doesn't have to use language. So she's one of my greatest allies, even though she's not right up here. She's still, she's
everywhere. So, and what about, I'm just curious because and I say this in the show that we talk about these things because there are people that are waking up or in certain things they haven't experienced or they're coming into that they might be able to pick up through the stories. But in regard to your higher self, how is your connection or your relationship with your higher self? Do you see that as part of that singular voice, or is that standing to the side over here?
My higher self, it's almost merged, right? Because it's almost like that higher one voice is coming through my higher self and speaking to me. I'm just tuning in. Yeah. My higher self feels like separate because it's Mona's higher self as opposed to Todd's higher self, but it's still that, right? It's just speaking the language of that one true voice.
Yeah, right on. I don't know what you do. Okay, like, I don't know if you're an energy practitioner or but if there's anything that you would like to do, or blessing, light language, you want to sing it, you want to dance, that's okay. You want to do a piece of your performance, or just talk about anything. The floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Well, sometimes I've been doing this recently, but I have never done it on a Facebook Live. With my friends, I just open up and then
Yeah,
bring in or channel in a prayer and invocation.
yeah, we'd be very grateful and
Okay.
honored to do
Yeah, a
that.
little nervous because this is all new for me, but I'm gonna do it. All right. And now, am I like allowed to use names of particular deities, or is that like
You
it?
can do whatever you want to do.
Okay.
You can even say F-bombs. It's fine with me.
Yeah, I like saying F-bombs. All right. Whew. So, mm. Dear source and creator of all that is, all the beautiful guides, light beings, family of light, ancestors, support team, all the beings surrounding me and surrounding us as a collective of humanity, I now ask and request that you please call in your own support team, your own guides. Call in your higher self to be here so that whoever is listening, we can all call in a beautiful circle of all of the beautiful beings that support us, any deities. I usually call in deities because I believe they represent all these different forms. Call in Lord Ganesha, Jesus Christ, Mother Mary, the Buddha, Prophet Muhammad, Kuan Yin, Sai Baba, Saint Thomas, Saint Joseph, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Metatron. Bring in these beautiful beings of light, all the angels, the earth beings. I bring in all these beings now to support us in a circle. And I ask that that we as a collective of humanity can step into our higher selves. My greatest vision is that we can literally bring heaven on earth, that we can literally embody the truth of unconditional love through our beings on this planet, that we can embody unconditional love to each other, with each other, that we can raise the frequency of this planet, that we can bring in a kind, gentle, loving, non-forceful way this higher consciousness that we all know is possible to assist our Mother Earth in thriving, to assist our bodies in thriving, to assist our hearts in thriving, to assist our relationships, to assist the abundance of those who do not have, to assist those who are suffering on this planet to find their power and their sovereignty within, to find the connection to all of humanity and to remember that we are all one and not separate beings. Dear source and creator of all that is, I now ask and pray that all of us come into alignment with who we are, who we truly are, that we remember who we truly are so we can be in service to ourselves, to our Dharma, and to this planet as a whole. Thank you. It is done, it is done, it is done. Show me.
So it is. Thank you. Wow. That's what I love about this show. It's like, in the old days, getting a box of Cracker Jacks. You never know what you're going to get inside, but it's a beautiful way to start the day. I had I got up early this morning, did some work, and then I got hit. You know how that happens. I mean, I'm not going to tell you because you're doing this to the extreme, but that hot, cold, that drowsiness where you feel like you're going to pass out. And then at the same time, what I'm noticing over the last week is it comes in and then all this stuff starts coming in at the same time. Like, how the hell am I supposed to know what the hell you guys are saying if my head's spinning, my eyes are going like that, and my body is like like somebody put like an oven in my stomach, and then it gets cold and then it gets hot. So I wasn't feeling, and I got out of the shower 8 minutes before we went on. I really wasn't rebooting. I was rebooting Todd.
Yeah.
That's why I was late, but you've really lifted me up, and I really appreciate that. And I know you must have done that for everyone else. And it's such a pleasure to meet you. I don't know how Morgan finds these people, but that's Morgan for you. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Not luck, but I wish you the best you know, for what you're doing, and would love to, you know, set the intention to collaborate in the flesh, in the field with a, you know, as Soulogy expands and we do some more live functions, to see people like you get out there and do these unique expressions of their journey, you know, expressed in artistic form. I think that's a big, big combination of a multitude of frequencies, creating an intense vibration that just is full of code, whether it be through the sound, through your voice, through the imagery of seeing you, the story, everything. You know, I think that this is where we're going with all this, you know, nonverbal communication.
Yes. Thank you so much, Todd. And thank you for, you know, all the, because sometimes when I'm alone and going through these upgrades and I don't, especially the last in the summer, you know, watching your videos, watching Jason's videos, it's just like a breath of fresh air for the who are sitting alone and going through it, or think we're alone and we forget we're not. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I look forward to collaborating again with you in the future. You're a beautiful lady. Thank you so much for being such a warrioress and getting the job done on behalf of everybody. You take care. All blessings to you and yours. Thank you so much.